We live in a world of bubbles, financial and otherwise, and I suppose property bubbles as well. But radiology is now getting into a phase where it probably is beginning to explode a bubble. And the basis for this is really, it's hard to set without looking at what radiology is. The output of radiology is this kind of thing. This one here is an image of the vascular system in the heart. This is a CT scan. This is the first radiograph of Röntgen's wife's hand. Now, there's an enthusiasm for use of CT scans that's problematic. And we're told by Alan Greenspan that bubbles arise from irrational exuberance. And there is an exuberance about the use of CT scans that's probably going to cause problems. When the bubble is burst or about to burst, fear arises. And one of the things causing fear is the amount of radiation when you deal with radiology. This represents the background radiation that we're all exposed to by living on the planet. And the amount we get from medical exposure up to the turn of the century was the small square that was there a minute ago. We're now getting, in the United States, the large square. So the amount of radiation that people living on the planet get has roughly doubled if you live in the United States. So here is the full amount of radiation. The natural amount is here. The amount from radiology is the lower part. Now, this isn't as high in Ireland, but the same trends are evident. It arises mainly from CT scans, and there's a great increase in the numbers of these every year. But we also estimate that about 2% of all cancers in the US in the future may be due to radiation from CT scans today. So we have froth and bubbles, and these arise from ignoring externalities, which in practice are the risk and the dose, and also, to some extent, the cost and the fees. And the principles of radiation protection should be enough to protect us from this, particularly the first one, which relies on justification, which means the benefit and the risk must be balanced out. And the question is, can doctors balance the benefit and the risk well? Well, a study in the UK looking at whether doctors knew about the risk found that from 130 studied, practically none of them knew anything about the risk. They were also not very good at detailing the benefit. And the benefit, this was found by studying how many knew the referral guidelines for a particular examination or for the most common examinations. It was also found that about 75% of x-rays of the lower back were of no value to anybody. So if you took all these bowler-hatted men here and did one x-ray on all of them, you'd find that 20 to 50% of the x-rays were of no value. By that I don't mean it was a negative finding, I just mean they were useless. And who thinks this is a problem? The general public don't yet, because they're not generally very aware of it, but some of the professions are beginning to become aware of it, and also some of the corporate bodies involved, some of the professional bodies. In particular, the radiation protection system, and there are two big systems for radiation protection. One run by the UN through the International Atomic Energy Agency, and one run by the EC through its member states. And they held a workshop, these two bodies, in Brussels involving 40 countries in September, and they reached the conclusion that there's a significant and systemic practice of inappropriate examination in radiology. And that's a very strong statement for this kind of group. Apart from the things I've mentioned already, the extra factor that they're also worried about is the fact that the dose from an abdominal CT scan is roughly the same as 500 chest x-rays. And again, people aren't aware of that. The size of the doses are so large. So you've, in consequence, bad, unnecessary examination with high doses, and also individual charges and exchequer charges for activity that isn't much use to anybody. Can nothing be done about this? Yes, there are good, robust methods of dealing with it. The problem is to get awareness of them. I won't try and detail them in 15 seconds, but they are there and they exist. So in conclusion, radiology greatly benefits the people who need it. It creates unwarranted risk for those who don't. The doses have increased very, very dramatically, and there's a need to ensure it's used better. And what can you do as an individual to help this along, to avoid another bubble? It's really to ask your consultant or your physician, do I really need this x-ray? is the information in this X-ray going to help the decision-making process for whatever is to happen to me? So thank you.